This lesson will be on elasticity of demand. So what would you buy at a higher price no matter what? So if you bought something or you buy something all the time and if they raise the price, would you still buy it no matter what? So looking at this picture, which person would most likely keep purchasing or buying their running shoes even if the price goes up? And why would they? And what other information would you need to look at the other two individuals? So when we look at elasticity of demand, this measures how much buyers will cut back or increase their demand for a good when the price rises or falls. And this varies at every price level. So that means maybe if something's 50 cents and it just goes up to 75 cents, you might still buy it. But if it's at $100 and it raises to $200, you might not do it. And it also goes to person. So if something goes up a quarter, one person might say, forget it, I'm not going to do it. And another person might say, yeah, sure, I will. Or they also might even spend the extra $100 if it goes up to $200. Now there's lots of factors affecting elasticity of demand. And in a couple slides we're going to find out what does elasticity mean. So the factors affecting it are substitutes. Are there any substitutes for the product you really want? Maybe you can't afford that product, so you have to find a substitute. Maybe there's none at all. So maybe you have to keep on buying that same product. Is it a luxury item or a necessity? Is it something you can do without, or do you need it in order to survive? And on your budget, you might have a limited budget. You could cut back on other things so that your demand for the product is inelastic. And like I said, I'll tell you what these mean, inelastic and elastic mean in a couple slides. But if you cut back on other things, then that means the product that you really want, it doesn't matter what the price is, you're going to buy it. But if you cut back on the item you want, then your demand for the product is going to be elastic. And also the last one for factors affecting elasticity of demand is change over time. Sometimes it takes time for consumers to react to a price change, increase or decrease, because it might take time to find a substitute or be able to buy the good you really want. So maybe you can't find a substitute right away. So let's say we have a very nice luxury SUV and gas prices are rising. Well, you might not be able to find a substitute for that right away. So another 6 months or a year, then you can finally find a car that gets better gas mileage, cheaper, since gas has gone up. Now, same thing as if gas goes down and you had a economical car that gets good gas mileage. Well, since you have that economical car and gas prices have been going down, you've been saving some money. So now since you've been saving some money, think, well, I'm going to go out and buy that nice luxury SUV or sports car or whatever. So it goes different ways each depending on the price and if you can find a substitute in that. And like I said, it takes time on some things. You can't just go out to the store and get a substitute right away for it. So the effect of a price change on quantity demanded. If you're inelastic, then your demand is not sensitive to the price change. Meaning it doesn't matter what the price did. If it went up, you're still going to get it. Or there wasn't any substitutes available, so you have to get it. Maybe you have less income spent on that good, so you don't have as much money to spend on that good. The good could be a necessity, so it doesn't matter what the price is, you need that in order to survive. Or there's no time to react in the short term. You can't just go out and get a substitute or some other type of product that's similar to it because it's not available right away, or it takes time to save up the money to get that product. If you're elastic, then your demand is sensitive, meaning any price change is going to make you either want it or not want it. So even if it goes up a little bit, then you say, well, I'm still going to get it, but if it goes up a lot, then you're going to find out, no, I don't want that. There might, the substitutes are available, so you say, forget it, I'm not going to get the product I want. I'm going to get a substitute. It's similar to, it's not really a want, but I'm going to go with that. Or you have more income to spend on that good. It's seen as a luxury item. So it's like, well, if it's a luxury item, I don't really need it. I don't need it to live. It's nice to have, but I don't have to have that. And the last one, if you're elastic demand, if substitutes can be found in the long run, excuse me, meaning in the long run, later on, I can finally get it, but it took me a while to get there because maybe I had to save up the money in order to do that, just like going from an economical car to maybe a nice SUV. And the last one is unitary elastic. So that is the price, the percent change in quantity demanded equals the percent change in price, then it is a unitary demand. Now on these three, I'm going to have an example in the 2 slides from now to show you what all these mean. So I'll give you more information on those and an example of them. So to find the calculating elasticity of demand, you take the percent change in quantity demanded over the percent change in price. And before I go any further, these two calculations, the formulas, I would definitely know these because they could be on a test coming up. So that means I take the percent change in quantity demanded divided by the percent change in price. The answer will always be negative because if price increases, that's a plus, then demand would decrease. Because some people, if the price goes up, the demand is going to be less, which is negative. So if you have a positive divided by a negative, you have a negative. Or if price decreases, which would be a negative, and the demand increases, which is positive, once again, you have a negative divided by positive, which is a negative. Now you just ignore, and you're going to see this in the next slide, you ignore negatives. We don't care about those. When you calculate them, you're going to find that out, but you just drop the negative and don't worry about it. And how to figure out the percent change, there's the formula right there. You take the original amount of how much it was, the price, or what the quantity was, minus the new amount or quantity or the price, divided by the original amount or quantity or the price. So the original amount or price minus new amount or price divided by original amount or price. So here are some examples for what inelastic, elastic, and unitary elastic means. So if you're inelastic, you will still buy the good even at a higher price. Price has little effect on demand. So no matter what, when the price goes up, you're still going to get it. You might not like it, but you're still going to get it. So either you don't care or you see it as a necessity. It is not very sensitive to price changes. So like I just said, if the price changes, goes up higher, you're still going to get it. When you're calculating the value of inelasticity, it will always be less than 1. And here's an example. If the price of Swedish fish increases from $2 to $3 per bag, that's an increase of 50%. Then instead of buying your usual amount of 4 bags, you only buy 3 bags. So that's a decrease of 25%. So the price went up. You did buy less, but it really wasn't that much, only by 1 bag. So to find out what my calculated by elasticity value is, so negative 0.25, because that's how much it decreased, the quantity demanded, divided by the price increase, gives me a negative 0.50. And once again, you ignore the negative numbers, or the negative sign. So this is less than 1, so your demand for Swedish fish, and there's my little drawing of it, is inelastic since you still bought them even though the price increased. So whenever you calculate it, if you're less than 1, meaning that means that you're going to buy the product no matter what, even if the price increased. So it could have been a necessity, or you don't really care, you have the money to spend on it. You might buy less of something else so you can buy these. You might not buy as many of the things, but you're going to still buy it. Now if you're elastic, you won't buy, or you will buy very little of the good even at a small price increase. So price has a longer effect on the demand. The value of elasticity will be greater than 1. So in the example here, if the price of Swedish fish increases by 50 cents, or excuse me, 50%, meaning let's say $2 to $3, that's an increase of 50%, and your demand decreases by 75%, then the value of elasticity is 1.5. So here's the calculations. Since the number is greater than 1, there's my calculations. Negative, that should be 0.75 divided by 0.50 equals negative 1.5. Ignore the negative. This means that your demand for Swedish fish is very sensitive to the price change. Meaning you still bought some, but you didn't buy as many as you normally would. You went down from 4 bags clear down to just 1 bag. Where up in the other person, they just dropped 1 bag and they bought 3 bags, so they didn't really care. They kind of cut back, but the price didn't really matter to them. Where if you're elastic, it did matter to you, so you bought it, but you're not going to buy as much for it. And then the unitary elastic, once again, as I said 2 slides ago, if the demand change, the percent change, equals how much the price changed, then it's equal to 1. So the example is if the price increases by 50 cents, demand decreases by 50%, that's a negative 1, which means it equals 1, and you ignore the negative sign there. So those are some examples of inelastic, elastic, and unitary elastic. You might want to go back through these and read these again to understand what it means for each one of them. So inelastic, you still buy no matter what, even if the price goes up. And elastic, you won't buy it at all, or if you do buy it, you're going to buy very little of that good at a smaller price. And so how does elasticity affect a firm's revenues? Well, a firm has to look at what their price is of an item and the demand on it. They want to know, is the item we have, the product we have, elastic or inelastic at the price that it is right now? So they say if we drop the price, then our revenues will go up, meaning that we are going to gain more money. And also then if the price increases, if they say, well, let's raise the price, well, then they know that their revenue, how much the money they take in, is going to decrease. Because remember, a firm's whole goal is to make money. They want to make revenue, so that means how much money they take in by selling their product. And doing these comparisons helps them set the price of their products. Now if it's inelastic, so if their product is inelastic at the given price, they know that if they drop the price, that they're going to lose some revenue because, or the revenue's going to go down, yes, lose some revenue, because they're not going to take as much in on there. So they could be selling the same amount of product, but they've lowered the price, so they're not going to be making as much money. Now, if they raise the price, they know that they're going to increase their revenue, so that means they're going to be making more money. But they got to be careful on these things because, like I said, their whole goal is to make money for the firm, and if they raise or lower it too much, then they know they're not going to make as much. So remember, if you're inelastic, people are still going to buy it no matter what. Usually, they might not buy as much, but they're still going to buy it. And if somebody is elastic, then they are not going to buy it or buy very little of it, of that product. So some examples of this would be like if gas prices were going up, then probably people aren't going to buy SUVs and bigger cars and luxury cars and stuff like that. So car dealerships aren't going to sell as much, but they can't raise the price to make up that revenue because people aren't going to buy them anyway. So they have to, like I said, firms have to watch out which way they're going to make the price of an item, and to make sure that they make the revenue that they need, and so they aren't going to be losing any revenue in their business, or else they could eventually go out of business. So on this, that's the end of the lesson here, and go back to the beginning if you need to and go over the things. I know there's quite a bit of information on a couple of the slides, so you want to maybe listen to it carefully, read it over again, take some notes on it, and just take your time on it so you understand it. Hope this helps, and good luck. Thanks.